I want to start by saying I was thinking about this. There are three reasons why I'm especially happy to be here, back here with you. And the first reason is that it's such a privilege and a joy to talk about MeherBaba, to share about MeherBaba. In the presence of MeherBaba. I don't know there's any greater privilege than that in life. So I feel very fortunate that I've had that opportunity, and I don't feel worthy of it, but I feel very fortunate. I say in the presence of MeherBaba because, of course, though we could say Baba is with us all the time, when Baba gathers people together in a sahalas and a gathering, there's something special that he does, and a special presence that he brings. And so, to talk about, I won't think about this too much, I won't be able to talk about him, to share about him, and the presence of him is such a great thing. The second reason is because I'm so happy to have the privilege and joy of talking in front of so many people who've given so many years and so much to Baba and his cause, who are so close to him. It's a little daunting because almost everything you say, you know that so many people in the room have this deep background and probably know more about some of the things that I touch on than I do. So it's an extraordinary opportunity to be with them. I was thinking about that, I was thinking, when I was growing up, when people would come to the center who had been with Baba a very long time, like many of you, Elizabeth would always, and Kitty would always make a very special effort. And their code for these folks who would come in those days were old-timers. So the old-timers would come, and Elizabeth would often go in and see to their cabin, make sure everything was just right. And then they would be invited for a lunch or for a dinner. And I said, well, Andrew, I call Elizabeth, I said, well, why is so-and-so coming for lunch? Well, you see, she's an old-timer. And always treated with such care and a special attention because of that long life with Baba, honored that. And I thought, boy, we're now the old-timers. You know? We're the old-timers. And what a great thing. What a great thing to be able to feel like that. And even those who are new, you know, in a way, they're old-timers because I used to say to Elizabeth, so-and-so is here and, you know, they're new. They're new. And she'd always look at me and she'd say, oh, well, they may be new to us, but they're not new to Baba. So even the new people are probably old-timers as well. And the third reason, of course, that I'm particularly happy to be here is because I'm, on this rare occasion, here with my newly minted husband. You know, and although we've been together for 26 years, I want to get that right. You know, we just got married in December, and we got married on the day Elizabeth went to Baba, December 6th, by design. And she was so much there, as was my mother. We had a cloud of witnesses. We had a small wedding, but we had a cloud of witnesses. And of course, Baba was there. Our priest, actually, at our church, co-officiated with our old friend, Porter Taylor, Bam Taylor, who I knew He and Joe, of course, I've known from Baba's family for many, many years. He's now a bishop in North Carolina, in the Episcopal Church. They co-officiated. And they both said later that they had never been to a wedding, and they've done a lot of weddings, where they felt God so present, so full, as in that wedding. And it wasn't because of us. It was because of whatever it is that Baba was doing. And we felt it too. We were overwhelmed. So to be here with my husband, odd saying it, my husband, because so many years we've always said partner. It sounds like you have a business arrangement, right? My partner, but now we can say husband, and it's such a great thing. It's such a wonderful thing. And Christopher agreed to help me tomorrow. First time ever talking about giving a talk about Jane and MeherBaba, her relation with Baba. So I couldn't possibly tackle that by myself. And he was very close to her, very close to her. In fact, he met her before he met me. Oh. So they have a very deep link. So anyway, so when we before in our church, before we take the bread and wine at the Eucharist, which symbolizes, as you know, the body and blood of Christ. Before we do that, everyone says together, Christ has died. Christ is risen. Christ will come again. And in talking with Christopher about some of these things that I've been thinking about, he reminded me of that. And so I thought I would start with that, because, of course, another way for me, as I say that, is MeherBaba dropped the body. MeherBaba dropped the body. The physical body, as Elizabeth would say. MeherBaba is present. And the avatar will come again. And in a way, that's all one needs to know. That's all one needs to know. So I wanted to talk about that as best I can, or at least give thoughts, reflections. I'm not sure how coherent it is, but I've been thinking a lot about that. About Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again, and what that means. And of course, the person that comes to mind as I thought about that was Elizabeth. Now, I want to say a little of her experience around the time that Baba dropped the body. Does everyone know who Elizabeth is when I say Elizabeth? Elizabeth Patterson, close disciple. In this audience, I think everyone would know, but I just want to make sure that I don't just say a name.
Charles, I think there will be a few people.
A few people?
I think there are a few people who are not familiar with this.
All right. Well, let me just say this much then, and we will show images of her through the weekend, but she was one of MeherBaba's great Western disciples. She founded the Center in Myrtle Beach with Marina Machiavelli. She lived for a time in India with MeherBaba. She, among other things, was the driver when Baba had his first accident, shed blood in the West. And she was, as Baba said, Elizabeth, he said, she's my rock. Very key in much of Baba's work in the West. I grew up with her. She's my link to MeherBaba, and she introduced our family to Baba, and she became my spiritual mother, I would say. And much of what I know, such as it is, I learned from her about Baba. So when January 1969. In January 1969, Elizabeth wakes up in the middle of the night, sits up in her bed, and the words come to her from the hymn, "I know that my Redeemer liveth." It's also from the book of Job. I know that my Redeemer liveth. And then she went back to sleep. And several hours later, she got the phone call from Adi in Ahmednagar that Baba had dropped his body. It turns out later, when I looked back and I thought about the timing, that when she sat up in the bed and those words came to her, it was about the time that Baba left his form. I was at Emory and at college, and Mother was actually there too, directing us in a play. She had decided to come to Emory to direct the play so she could earn a little bit of money so that my sister Diane could go to India for the gathering that Baba had planned for us in 1969. So she was then in Atlanta, and Elizabeth couldn't reach her because the place she was staying didn't have a phone in her room. And so Elizabeth called me in my dorm room because that's the only phone she had. This is before cell phones and all of that, right? In those days, you had to be near a phone. And so the phone rang very early that morning. I don't know what time it was. It was very early that morning. And I was in my dorm room. I got up, I answered the phone, and she said, "Charles." And I said, "Oh, Auntie Boo." I was surprised. She didn't call me like that. And she said, "Yes." She said, "Charles, Baba says, God alone is real. There is nothing else." I said, "Yes, Andrew." And she said, "I just received a call from Adi. The beloved Baba has dropped his physical body." And then she said, "Adi says, Baba says, I go now, but I will come again." He said, "Now, find your mother and tell her." I couldn't speak, so I just hung up the phone. I called this place where Mother was staying, and I found somebody to go find her in her room, and, somehow they found her. And she came to the phone, she picked up the phone, and I said, "Mother?" She said, "Is it Wendy?" I said, "No." "Is it Elizabeth?" I said, "No." She said, "All right, what is it?" She heard in my voice. So I said, "Mother, Annie Boo just called, and Adi has called to say that Baba has dropped his body." And before I got those words out of my mouth, Mother said, "Oh, I am so happy. His suffering is over." And then she said, "But I feel so for the girls." And that captured it, that experience for me. Because yes, he dropped the body. But a few months later, maybe not a few months, maybe a month later, it was very close to the time, before we went to India, Elizabeth's minister paid a call. You know how it is in the church, right? So somebody dies, you're close to somebody, in your congregation, your job as ministers to go and pay a call, right? You'd say condolences and all that. So her minister made an appointment to come and see her. She went to the Methodist church in Myrtle Beach, church her father helped build. And he came, and she called me before he got there. She was wont to do when something like this would happen. A minister, a visitor, or something, she would call me up and have me come over. And I was in town for some reason. I don't know why. But I was there, and he sat there, and he finally got to the point where he was saying what he had to say about this. He said, "You know, Mrs. Patterson, I came because I heard that, Meher Baba died, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry, and I know how much you must miss him." And Elizabeth looked up, and without missing a beat, she looked up, looked right at him, and she smiled, and she said, "Oh, no. You see, he's so much more available now." And it came right from her heart. Yes, Meher Baba died. Meher Baba is here. And Meher Baba will come again. He is absent. He is present. He will come again. So that led me, in meditating about that experience and thinking about that time with Elizabeth in 1969, I've been also reconsidering my own story. These stories become something different in life. These wonderful stories that happened back then become different as we change. But also with Meher Baba, every story, it seems to me, of life with him that people tell, every time it's told, it's new. Every time it's told, it's new. These stories seem to be imbued with something that's meant for now. We say, well, it happened then, but I felt more and more that these stories, what he was doing then, he was also doing now. Because, of course, for him, there is no past, present, future. It's all now. So everything he did is for now. And so these stories, so I've been reconsidering my own story in light of this, meditating about Baba and being absent, being present, and coming again. And I realized that my first encounter with Baba, my first meeting in this lifetime with Baba, really defined my whole life in that way, around this theme. I have to give the setup for the 2 or 3 of you who've not heard me talk about that meeting before. Maybe none of you. But the setup for what I want to say when I'm in there with Meher Baba, that first meeting, which was May 21st, 1958, the setup was that we had known about Meher Baba for some months. And yet, we didn't know much. And that was by design, because my mother was nervous about telling us very much about Baba, because she didn't know herself what this would be, or who it would be. She loved Elizabeth from the start, and Kitty, of course. But she was concerned about her children, and she didn't know what to say. Didn't want to say too much. So we knew Elizabeth and Kitty, and we had been to the center a little and all that, but we didn't know much. And by the time Baba arrived in May of 1958, my sister was 6, I was 8, my brother was 10. And Mother, wasn't sure if she was even going to have us meet him. And when she first went to meet him on May 19th, she didn't take us. And it was Baba who, during the first meeting, said, Jane, where are your children? And she said, well, Baba, they're in school and so forth and so on. I said, I want to meet them. And so she brought us one by one. In fact, older brother first, on the 20th, me on the 21st, and then Wendy met him on the 22nd. So like that. So my day was the 21st. I was very excited. I knew this was someone from India. I knew little, right? I used to think that's all I knew, but actually I think I knew more. And the reason I say that is because there's one photograph that Mother kept of MeherBaba in our home. Elizabeth gave her many photographs, but she didn't keep them, or she put them away. She'd hide them. So the only one she actually kept out was of Baba holding, Mother always said, the lamb. Be a goat, but that's all right. Whatever it was, my mother called it the lammy picture, and it reminded her of Christ. Now Elizabeth had taken that picture. Arano took a version of it. Elizabeth took another version there too, and Mother kept this out. So I feel now, looking back, to be totally honest about what I knew and didn't know. I don't remember, except I knew he was from India. Mother may have said, because of this photo, she may have said something, oh yes, he's like Jesus, something like that. Must have planted in me that. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'm trying to be fully transparent about this story. And I was excited to meet this person and arrived there with Mother, and then Mother disappeared into the lagoon cabin where Baba was. I don't know why. Why did she go in there and leave me out there? I don't know. But she said, go get in the line. I was, a little thing. I guess she was to go in with Elizabeth. I don't know why. She said, go get in the line and wait. And there's a door to the lagoon cabin on the side that faces the lake, if you've been there. And there was a line of people lining up, and I remember getting in the line of people, and I remember thinking, oh, I'm in the North Carolina line. Because I was born in North Carolina, and I just assumed that, we were going in by state. I don't know where I got. So I thought I was in the North Carolina line. And I remember standing there. It's a funny thing. It's 50-some years ago, but I remember standing there thinking, I'm in the North Carolina line. I don't know. Nobody told me that. I made that up. And then I remember trying to see who it was I was going to meet. And of course, those of you who heard me talk about this is that incredible moment for me that was not really that incredible at the time. It's only in retrospect that it's incredible. At the time, it seemed perfectly normal. I'm looking through, the screen door, right? So they're inside, you can't see, it's kind of shadowy, and I'm trying to anticipate, like a child would, And of course, there are big people in front of me, and so I'm looking around to see who's sitting there, who am I going to meet? And people shifted just for a moment, and I got a glimpse into the room, and there sat Jesus. It was Jesus. And I say that because it wasn't just any old Jesus, it was my Jesus. In other words, I recognized because I had my own image of Jesus. Now, you have to know that I was a bit God-obsessed as a child. Bible stories, and they always thought I was going to become a minister because I loved going to church. Now, I didn't like Sunday school. I hated Sunday school. Well, they taught you table manners and such. I didn't want to go to Sunday school. Really, it was really boring and terrible. And I didn't want to interact with the kids. I wanted to go into the church. And so I would insist that we go to church. And Mother, of course, she was fine to go to church. My father never went to church. We were very small. Nobody else wanted to go. So Mother would, get us up to go to church, right? And I was excited to go to church. And of course, Mother was unbelievable. She'd take forever to get ready to go to church. And I'm ready to go. And by the time we got there, of course, we would have to, I don't know if you know the South Church, if you got any idea, we'd have to walk down the aisle to the front because there was no space left, right? So you have to go in front of all these people after the service had started, after the first hymn. So humiliating. So we were always late, but I loved it. So that's the backdrop of this. I had my own idea of Jesus. It wasn't the Sunday school Jesus, it was my Jesus. And I had this idea, this picture in my mind, and there he was, sitting there. Sitting there. And this is the most amazing part of the story for me. I was not at all surprised, or taken aback, or, oh my gosh, how did that happen? It seemed like to me. I mean, I didn't have time to much think about it, but it just seemed natural to me. And then the door opened, and I was called in by whatever Mondley person was doing that. Charles! So I went in. I don't know who was there because, I know Elizabeth was there, my mother was there and all that. All I could see was him. And he didn't look like that Jesus. He looked like that. And again, looking back, the most remarkable thing about that story, I didn't say that. What happened? It was just, that was the way it was supposed to be. And I rushed across the room. He opened his arms, and we embraced. And it seemed like the most familiar moment of my life. And you know how you feel like you're someone you're close to, you see them one day, and it's so good to see you, and then the next day you see them again, and you say, oh, good to see you. It was like that. Like, oh, like it was yesterday, and now we're together. Everything, I don't exaggerate this because I couldn't possibly, everything seemed so familiar. So natural. So much so that I didn't even think this is natural or familiar. I was 8 years old. I didn't think that. It just was. Now, wouldn't you think that an 8-year-old, one of the first things an 8-year-old would do would say, oh, he's not talking. Right? He's not talking. Never occurred to me that he didn't talk. On some level, I must have realized that. I didn't look and see what Erich is doing and his gesturing and interpreting at all. It seemed, in my experience then, I can remember it so well, that it seemed like this is how it is. This is how he is. And then came the defining moment of my life. So all that was the prelude to this, right? But you have to have the backdrop, or else this moment doesn't make much sense. So what I wanted to say is that I didn't realize this fully until really recently, just how important this moment was. But I was standing next to him, in his chair, oblivious to whoever else was there. And I was eye level with Bob, because, I was like this, and Bob was like this, so I was eye level, And Baba then turned to me and asked me a question. And as it turns out, it's the only question he ever asked of me in my whole life. But it was the only question he needed to ask. I guess. And what he asked was, Charles, would you like to go and live where I live? I looked at Baba and I didn't think. I spontaneously said, yes, Baba. I must have thought in my head briefly, India. I don't know, but I just didn't think. I just said, yes. And when one answers Baba like that, spontaneously, it's Baba answering. Right? Because it's the heart's beat. I mean, it's not, think about it, decide, you're, a child, what does it mean? None of that. I've come to feel now and realize and recognize, because of so many other moments like this that people have had with Meher Baba, that when we spontaneously, something deep comes out that we didn't think was there, or know was there, or would have decided to be there, it's from him. He asks the question and he gives the answer. But the fact that it came from me is the significant part. Could not Baba have said, Charles, I want you to do that? No, he could have done that. But it was not Baba. It was, do you want to go and live where I live? Yes, Baba. And then Baba said, you will. And now I realize that was the defining moment of my life. That was the defining moment. Because why is it that I've had this deep longing? And Christopher and I have shared this recently and realized that we have the same longing. The same one prayer. When you come again, I want to be here. I want to live with you. We have the same longing, and I know that it's this gift that Baba gave me at that moment. And that's all that I want. And yes, Baba's here, but yes, he will come again. So, remembering him now is a preparation for him. Being his companion now is a preparation for him, making us his companion when he comes again. So, a footnote, which is a very sweet footnote to that experience. Many years later, in India, I had the opportunity to talk to Erich about something. And I was in his little cabin. Those of you who visited there and remember where Erich lived, at his little cabin, which was the rebuilt cabin that Baba was in seclusion. They rebuilt it, Erich lived there. And Erich said, out of nowhere, he said, Charles, he said, yeah, you know how it is that I remember you. He said, you know, I have to remember things. I said, yeah. For Baba, I had to remember things, people and all that. Erich had to remember people. Because when they would come again, or when there'd be correspondence, somebody had to say, Baba, this is so-and-so. Baba, this is the orders you gave this person. Baba, this is somebody. Erich was the one. He had to keep all that. So he said, yeah. I said, well, Erich, how did you ever do all that? He said, you know how you do it. What can I do? So he said, I keep a book. Oh. I said, you want to see? I said, yeah. Oh, he must have had this ready for me, because he pulls out Erich's little black book from 1958. And how he would write down people who met Baba and then put something next to them so that he could remember them. Yeah, Erich could remember them for Baba. See, Baba took on not knowing in order to be fully with us. And he depended on Erich to know. That was how it was. So Erich had to know. So he showed me, he said, yeah, here you are. And it said Charles, and next to him, my name, it said, wants to come and live with Baba. Erich, that's such a wonderful way to be remembered. He said, yeah, that's how it was. He said, yeah, you said yes. So grateful I didn't say no. I'm grateful I didn't say no. So we long to be in his presence, even though we are in his presence.
Did he ask your sister or brother the same question?
They had their own experience, but no. So I was thinking about this, longing to be his companion, and I thought I really wanted to talk about for a moment the person who, in my life, that I knew, who so desperately wanted to be a companion, so desperately wanted to be there, and that's, of course, Harry Kenmore. You know Harry Kenmore? So Harry Kenmore was an old timer. He was with Baba a long time. When he met Baba, I don't remember the detail. I don't know. Early 50s. Harry Kenmore was a chiropractor in New York. Harry Kenmore was blind. And Harry Kenmore loved Baba so very, very much. And Harry longed to live there in India with Baba. Right? This is what Harry wanted. Harry was so insistent about this. And Baba was so sweet to Harry. Baba, for whatever reason, made Harry the exception to all the rules. Right? So maybe it was because he couldn't see Baba, and Baba compensated for that. But whatever it was, Baba allowed Harry to touch his face and all that, and Harry would, and Baba would touch him, and Harry would visit when nobody else was supposed to go. Harry would visit. Baba would let him come. Get this, Harry Kenmore would call Baba up on the telephone. Yes. At Guru Prasad, when Baba was staying at Guru Prasad, Harry would call him up, and Harry swears he heard Baba laugh over the telephone. Which is probably true. Baba didn't speak, but he apparently made some sounds. Anyway, Harry said, I heard him laugh! Like that. He told me this. Harry told me, I heard him laugh! And Harry was a bigger-than-life character. You either, got along with him or you were afraid of him. I mean, I was a child, so I was a little afraid of him, to tell you the truth. He seemed huge to me, bigger than life, and Harry desperately wanted to live there in India. I have to tell this part because just to get the sense, if you didn't know Harry, since you didn't know Harry, some of you may have met Harry Kenmore. You remember Harry. So Harry is most memorable for a lot of people who didn't know him well for how he would say the Vartigar prayer. Oh. And so I was a child. And at these gatherings in New York, we were living in New York, Harry would get up and start with the Vartigar prayer, and people would just brace themselves. Because you would not have believed it. I will not try to do it at the same volume. You wouldn't be able to stand it. But I'll give you just a shadow of Harry. A shadow of Harry would be, and then you get to, bliss in French power in. So, Baba, of course, enjoyed this very much. I don't know if anybody else did. Baba loved it. Because he did it with such heart. Harry did her. And he was just so committed to Baba. And he didn't like a lot of, the rest of us, how we behaved, this hugging was dry sex. And, and it wasn't MeherBaba, it's MeherBaba. The guy ought to have been president. That gives you an idea, right? Not MeherBaba. So this was Harry. So Harry was a personality of big proportions, and for better and for worse. I'm not saying it was all a good thing. Could be a nightmare, but it was. He was a big personality, and so this is how Baba had a handful of these old timers in the West, and boy, every one of them was unbelievable, interesting, unique, odd. Well, maybe that's still true. Nothing has changed. No, I mean, just in the 50s, who was going to come to MeherBaba? People got to be a little different, right? A little different. I mean, so this is how it was. So Harry, who was a chiropractor, would work on Baba's body and all that. And Harry wanted to live in India. He wanted to be a companion. Harry referred to himself, because Baba must have said something about him being, yeah, Harry, you're like one of the Mongols. So Harry referred to himself, he says, I'm the only Western Mongol. Meaning men, Mongol. And maybe he was. I don't know. But he wanted. So one of his last times he was in India to see Baba. And I don't remember the date. If you later can tell me if you know the story better than I do. But it was, I think, very close to the end. Harry had one of these visits where he was the exception. No, I think it was close to the end. Anyway, he brought it up again. I want to come and live here, be here all the time. This time, Erich told me this. I'm getting all this directly from Erich. Something came up about companionship one day. I was talking about living with Baba and being his companion. And Erich says, the one person who wanted this more than anyone, Harry. So then he told me this story. He said, so he was there with Baba, and Harry had brought this up other times, other visits, 62, and Baba always sort of deflected it, and not now, the time isn't right, and all this. This time, Baba said to Harry, yes, you should come. And so many months, whatever, you come, and you can live here. And Harry's like, and Harry said, and Baba said that. I said, oh my God. Baba, what have you done? Eric said, see how I was? This is how Eric said, this is how I was. I'm there, I'm thinking, So, Harry leaves the room, and Eric looks at Baba and he says, Baba, why did you say that? He says, Baba, yeah, Baba, Harry loves you and all that. Yeah, it's so true. But what am I to do? Baba, I'm taking care of you now. I to take care of your body and all that. This is, if he comes, you know how he is. You have to walk with him and all that. Baba, how can I do that? How can I do that? Baba says, Eric, don't worry about it. I'll see. It'll be fine. I will see. And then Baba dropped the ball. And can you imagine Harry? Oh my God. So if we felt, we won't see him again physically. We felt, Harry, who is planning his life now to go and move there, to live there as his companion, finally, modally in reality, right? In person. And then Baba leaves the form, drops the body. Oh my God. Just before he's about, to go. So he goes. Eric says, he came anyway. Oh my God, he came. And I said, Eric, so what was it like? He said, how it was, So we would go for walks and all that. Harry, not being blind, there's a certain amount of, you have to take care, right? Now, having said that, Harry was pretty independent in New York City. He got all around his neighborhood. He memorized everything, where everything went. And he said, Eric told me this. Eric said, how he was. He was good. He would learn all this and that. He said, but, sometimes things would happen. I said, oh, really? Like what? He said, He said, Harry told me. Eric just telling me this. Harry told me one day, Harry was going to the store that he goes to, the stationery, the little grocery thing in New York. That little grocery store, every neighborhood has a little grocery store. So Harry's going to the thing like he does every day, right? And he doesn't even give a damn about the cane, right? Harry doesn't need the damn cane. He has it, but he doesn't use it. He just marches, right? He marches because he knows where everything is. And he marches down the street, he marches into the store where he goes all the time to get his food, right? He marches in, and they have left open the thing that goes down to the basement. The New York stores have this metal thing that opens up, and there's a big hole down to the abyss, and they have left the abyss open. Harry marches in, no cane, nothing, just marches in and goes right down the hole. And here's the great part. Harry told Eric, he says, as I was going down, I put my arms out, I saved my life, and I said as I was going down, God damn them! He said, I'm so grateful to Baba I didn't die. That would have been the last thing I'd ever said. Eric, that was terrible. Last thing I would have ever said. Instead of remembering Baba, God damn them. So Harry saved himself, right? This gives you a little idea of what Eric is dealing with. So he comes to live. And he's going to now be at MeherBabaLibrary. But he is so not Harry anymore. Harry's full of life and energy and vigor. Funny also. I didn't mention, he's very funny. And he'd make Baba laugh. He'd do these little limericks, and he was funny. Baba liked it with people to be humorous, and Harry had a great sense of humor. And he's always cracking jokes and making Baba laugh, teasing Baba, and Baba would tease him like that. You know, you're my pappy, and they do these little rhymes and all that. They had a whole thing going. So, not after Baba dropped the body. Just completely a different person. A shell of Harry Kenmore. A shell, right? And Harry said, it was, so, you know, he wouldn't do anything and all that. He would just sit there. I said, come on now, Harry, yeah, it's all right. You know, Baba's still here and all that. He wanted to live with him. He wanted to be his companion. And so one day, Eric convinces him, let's go out for a walk. Down the road, out of MeherBabaLibrary, nothing is there, you know, how it is, all that space. And they're walking down. Eric is holding on to Harry, and they're walking down. And this farmer is coming the other way. Eric's telling me this. I see him, this man coming. He says, Charles, you know how it is. They have you've seen them, big red turban things they wear like that. You know, they're wizened, they've been out in the sun, and they wear these big red things. You've seen that? I said, yeah, I've seen that. I said, yeah, he was one such person was coming, you know, down the lane toward Harry. And I thought, oh my God. You know, he would be protective of Harry, you know, like, who is this person and all that, because the person was coming, and the person was speaking, whatever it was, Marathi, whatever, to Eric, so that he wanted to meet him and to embrace this Westerner and all that. You know, sometimes the Westerners there and all that, and so he's coming toward him, and Eric's just, oh my God, no, you know, who is this man and all that, and Harry said, who is Eric? And he said, Harry's a farmer and all that. You know, he just wants to greet you. He wants to greet you. And they're sorry. So the farmer comes up, you know, and Eric kind of won't let him get too close. The farmer, though, reaches up and touches Harry on the cheek. And then he walks on. And Harry goes, Eric! Who was it? Where is he? Eric, that was him! Because of the way he touched him. He knew. He couldn't see, but he knew. He said, find him! And Eric turned around to look to get him, and there was no one there. I said, really, Eric? No one there? None behind the trees? And I said, Charles, I'm telling you, this was an empty space. There was nothing, no trees, nothing. There was no one. And I said, Harry, he's gone now. There's no one there. And Harry said, you fool! Why didn't you let me embrace him? That was him. That was him. But after that, Harry was just back to his normal self. He was so happy because he had come again. He had come again. And what a lesson, right? Because when he comes again, we might say, oh, 700 years, I got plenty of time to do whatever I want to do. I got 700 years to get ready. No, he may come any moment, right? And how is he going to look? He's not going to be MeherBabaLibrary walking there. It's not. You know, in the New Testament, if you read the accounts, after Jesus rises from the dead, they find the tomb empty. Read the accounts. At first, they didn't recognize it. They didn't know who it was. Until he said something, or did something. And they said, oh, it's you. Thomas didn't accept it until he was allowed to put his hands in the wounds. Because it didn't seem to be him. So we don't know. There's one of the Paul says in one of his letters, he'll come like a thief in the night. We don't know. If we expect him the way we want him to be, we miss him. If, however, we deepen our companionship with him now in such a way as to go beyond what he looks like, what he said, what he did, or any of those things, all of which is important. But if we're so deeply his companion now, then when he does come again in human form, we will recognize him. It doesn't matter what his name is. It doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't matter where he lives. We will recognize him. And so that's what we do now, I think. That's what I do. I speak for myself. I feel like now is the time to be a companion in a way that will be deepen my connection so that when he comes again, he will make me his companion. Because he will come again. I asked Hindu a lot about being a companion because he was such a great companion. Hindu, some of you met, but again I should say, early disciple, cousin to Baba, grew up with Baba, and loved Baba from the beginning. So Hindu, even as a child, when he was preparing to become a Zoroastrian and go through the initiation, he wanted Merwan to teach him the prayer. So that's Hindu. Hindu didn't care anything about spiritual teachings. He never read any of the books. He worked for Baba his whole life. And he said, Charles, there's only one thing I ever ask. I said, what's that, Hindu? I never asked. I said, Baba, I'll stay with you, but only one thing I want. Don't kick me out. And Baba said, yes, granted. So he made him do all kinds of difficult work. It's a whole story about himself. But he kept him by his side. And he's actually the only one that was there from the very beginning to the very end. Physically. Don't kick me out. That's companionship. And that's the only longing. Then you can do anything for God. And so the final thing is that I'll say tonight is that I asked Erich about this too, that some of you may have. And I said, Erich, you are his close companion. I said, Erich, this is my longing, is to be like that. But I said, won't it come to an end? Because Erich always said that's all he wanted. Won't it come to an end? Be liberated? I said, Erich, you must He said, Erich, you must be close to being liberated. I said, brother, I tell you, I don't want that. I don't want that. He said, no, we don't want that. Those Mali people don't want that. I said, you don't want that? No. He said, no, on the contrary, that's the worst thing. That's a terrible thing. Yeah, how can we be with him when he comes? How can we be with him? We don't want him. I said, but Erich, you've been with him, you're going to be liberated. You of all people. He said, don't tell me that, brother. It's a terrible thing. He said, you see how it is? He said, you know, have you seen the fruit tree? I said, yeah. You know, on the fruit tree, they're the fruits that come. He said, we are like that. We're like those fruits. Have you seen how they hang there? They're on the tree, the fruits and all that. We're like that. We're like the fruits on the tree. He said, but do you see how it happens? What happens to that? What do you mean, Eric? He said, it's there, it's on the tree. It doesn't want to leave the tree. It wants to stay there and all that. But the time comes when it, you know how it gets so ripe and all that. What happens? It falls. It falls. It's a terrible thing, brother. But there it is. What can we do? What can we do? Yeah, the fruit falls. Years later, I found a Rumi saying that captures what he was saying. First, I was born from his love. Finally, I gave my heart to him. Like fruit born from a branch, from that branch it hangs. So if we make him our constant companion now, Baba will make us his close companion when he comes again. Jai Baba.